The stars had never seemed so cold to Admiral as they did on that night. He stood at the observation window of Earth's United Defense Command, his hands clasped behind his back. The glass reflected his tired face, but his eyes remained sharp. Behind him, dozens of officers worked at their stations. Screens glowed with data. Voices called out numbers and coordinates. "Admiral," a young officer named said. She walked up to him with a tablet in her hands. "The long-range sensors have confirmed it. The Empire fleet is real. They are heading directly for Earth." Did not turn around. He kept looking at the stars. Somewhere out there, beyond the darkness, an army was coming to destroy everything he loved. "How many ships?" he asked. "Over 8,000, sir. Battleships, carriers, destroyers. It is the largest fleet we have ever detected." Closed his eyes for a moment. 8,000 ships. The Empire controlled hundreds of worlds. They had conquered species after species for thousands of years, and now they had turned their eyes to Earth. "Has the Council been informed?" asked. "Yes, sir. They are waiting for your recommendation." Finally turned around. The command center was huge with 3 levels of workstations. Every officer had stopped working. They were all looking at him. Fear was written on their faces. They knew what this meant. They did not negotiate. They did not show mercy. They simply took what they wanted. "Tell the Council I will speak to them now," said. He walked through the center, his boots making soft sounds on the metal floor. Officers stepped aside to let him pass. Some saluted, others just stared, understood their fear. He felt it too, but he had learned long ago that fear was not the enemy, giving up was. The council chamber was a circular room with seats arranged around a central platform. 12 leaders from 12 nations sat in those seats. They represented all of humanity. When entered, they fell silent. "Admiral," said Councilwoman. She was the current chair of the council. Her voice was calm but could see the worry in her eyes. "We have read the reports. Is there any chance the sensors are wrong?" "No, Councilwoman. The fleet is real. They will reach Earth in approximately 47 days." The chamber erupted in worried voices. Some leaders demanded immediate action. Others suggested surrender. A few simply sat in shocked silence. "Quiet," said firmly. The room fell silent again. "Admiral, what do you recommend?" Stepped onto the central platform. He looked at each leader in turn. 60 years ago, he began, Earth made first contact with alien life. They came to us in peace. They warned us about the galaxy. They told us about the empires that conquered and destroyed. They told us about the... "We know this history," one of the leaders interrupted impatiently. "Then you also know what we did next," continued. "We smiled, we traded, we made friends with peaceful species, and in secret we prepared. For 60 years, Earth has been building defenses that no one in the galaxy knows about. Hidden weapons, secret bases, technology that we have never revealed." The chamber was completely silent now. "They think we are weak," said. "They think Earth is just another primitive world waiting to be conquered. They are wrong." Councilwoman leaned forward. "What exactly are you suggesting, Admiral?" "I am suggesting we send them a warning. One warning, simple and clear. If they ignore it, we show them why that was a mistake." The leaders exchanged glances, finally nodded. "Draft the message, Admiral. We will approve it tonight." Far across the galaxy, Emperor sat on his throne of black stone. The throne room of the Empire was enormous, with pillars that reached up into darkness. Hundreds of servants and soldiers stood along the walls, their heads bowed low. Was old by standards, nearly 400 years. His gray skin was wrinkled, and his 4 eyes had grown dim with age. But his mind was still sharp. He had conquered more worlds than any emperor before him. "My lord," said General. He was tall and strong, with scars covering his arms from countless battles. "We have received a transmission from the planet called Earth." Made a rumbling sound in his throat. "Earth, The small blue world with the strange creatures. What do they want? They have sent us a warning, my lord. They demand that we turn back our fleet. For a moment there was silence, then began to laugh. It was a deep, ugly sound that echoed through the throne room. Soon the generals and servants joined in, laughing at the foolish creatures who dared to threaten the mighty empire. A warning, said when the laughter died down. These humans send us a warning. Do they not know who we are? Do they not know that we have destroyed civilizations 1,000 times older than theirs? Apparently not, my lord, said with a cruel smile. Show me this message. A screen lowered from the ceiling. On it appeared a human male in a dark uniform. His face was calm. His voice was steady. This message is for the Empire, the human said. You are approaching Earth space with hostile intent. We ask you one time only to turn back. If you continue your approach, you will face consequences that you cannot imagine. This is not a threat. This is a fact. You have been warned. The message ended, stared at the blank screen for a long moment. Consequences they cannot imagine, he repeated slowly. Then he laughed again. These creatures are either very brave or very stupid, perhaps both. Shall we respond, my lord? Asked. No, why waste words on insects? Continue the invasion as planned. In 47 days, Earth will burn, and these humans will learn what happens to those who threaten the Empire. Yes, my lord. As left the throne room to deliver the orders, settled back in his throne. He had seen this before. Small species making big threats. They always broke in the end. They always screamed for mercy. And he always enjoyed watching them realize that mercy was something that did not give. Back on Earth, Admiral stood in the command center once again. Officer approached him. Sir, we have confirmed that they received our message. Their fleet has not changed course. Nodded slowly. He had expected this, hoped against it but expected it. Very well, he said quietly. Begin Protocol Sunrise. Around the world, in secret bases hidden beneath mountains and oceans, lights began to turn on. Machines that had waited for decades started to hum with power. Soldiers who had trained their entire lives for this moment received their orders. Sir asked, do you really think we can win? Looked at her. She was young, barely 25. She had her whole life ahead of her. They all did. We gave them a chance to turn back, he said. They chose to ignore us. Now they will learn why that was the biggest mistake in their empire's history. He turned back to the window, looking out at the stars. We only needed to warn them once. Commander had lived on Luna Station for 12 years. She knew every corridor, every room, every hum and vibration of the massive space station that orbited Earth's moon. But she had never seen it like this. Every screen showed the same thing, the approaching fleet. 39 days until arrival, her second officer reported. He was a thin man with glasses and steady hands. They have not slowed down. They have not changed direction. Nodded, she stood at the main observation deck watching the stars. Somewhere out there, death was coming. Any response to our warning? She asked. Nothing, Commander. Complete silence. Had known they would not respond. Admiral had told her as much during their last communication. They did not negotiate. They did not talk. They simply destroyed. Commander said, I have to ask. The crew is scared. Everyone on this station knows what to do to the species they conquer. Are we really going to fight them? Turned to face him. Had served under her for 8 years. He had never questioned her before, but she could see the fear in his eyes, the same fear that every human was feeling right now. Do you know why I joined the Space Defense Force? She asked. Shook his head. My grandmother told me stories when I was a child, stories about our ancestors, about how they survived wars, famines, and disasters, about how they never gave up no matter how bad things got, smiled slightly. She told me that humans are like bamboo. We bend, but we do not break. With respect, Commander, they are not a storm. They are the end of everything. That is what they want us to believe. Walked over to a control panel and pressed a few buttons. The main screen changed, showing a map of the solar system. Look at this. What do you see? I see our solar system. Earth, the Moon, Mars, the asteroid belt. And what do you not see? Studied the map carefully. Then his eyes went wide. The defense platforms, they should be visible on this map, but they are not showing. That is because I turned off their signatures. They are still there, hidden, waiting. Pressed another button, and suddenly the map was filled with hundreds of red dots. Defense platforms, weapon stations, hidden bases on moons and asteroids. They think they know everything about us. They have studied our trade ships and our public broadcasts, but they have never seen this. How long have we had all of this? 60 years. Since the day they told us about the galaxy, Earth has been preparing for this moment ever since. Stared at the map. His fear was slowly being replaced by something else. Hope. There is more, continued. We are not alone in this fight. She pressed another button. The screen changed again, showing a message from Admiral. Attention all stations, his recorded voice said. This is Admiral of Earth Defense Command. As of today, I am activating Protocol Sunrise. All hidden assets are now online. All allied species have been and they have agreed to assist us. Their fleets will arrive within 20 days. Remember your training, remember why we fight. And remember this, we gave the chance to walk away. They refused. Now we show them why that was a mistake. The message ended. His hands were shaking, but not from fear anymore. Allied species, he whispered, we have allies. Did you think we spent 60 years just building weapons? Asked. We made friends, real friends. Species who were also tired of living in fear of the species who wanted to fight back but needed someone to stand with them. And we are that someone. Yes, Earth will be the first to stand against the Empire, but we will not be standing alone. Far from Luna Station, the fleet continued its journey through space. Thousands of ships moved in perfect formation, their dark hulls reflecting no light. Inside the command ship, General studied reports from his scouts. General, a young officer said, our advanced scouts have entered the outer edge of the human solar system. They report no resistance. Nodded slowly. As expected, these creatures are probably hiding on their planet, trembling in fear. What about their defenses? Minimal, General. We detected a few satellites and one station orbiting their moon. Nothing that poses any threat to our fleet. Good, continue the approach. I want us in weapons range within 30 days. Yes, General. Walked to the observation window of his ship. He had conquered dozens of worlds in his long career. Each one had been the same. The natives would resist at first, full of foolish hope. Then they would see the true power of and then they would break. Humans would be no different. But as watched the stars, a small doubt crept into his mind. There was something strange about these creatures. Their warning message had not sounded like fear. The human who spoke had not begged or threatened. He had simply stated facts, as if the outcome was already decided. Push the doubt away. It did not matter. They had never lost a war. They would not start losing now. On Earth, the world was changing. In every country, people watched the news with fear in their hearts. They were coming. Everyone knew the stories. They had destroyed entire civilizations. They had turned beautiful worlds into burned wastelands, and now they were coming to Earth. But something strange was happening. Instead of panic, a quiet determination was spreading. Factories that had been closed for years suddenly opened, producing weapons and supplies. Soldiers who had retired long ago put on their uniforms again. Young people signed up for military service in numbers never seen before. Admiral watched all of this from his command center. He felt proud of his species. Humans had always been at their best when things were at their worst. Admiral, officer said, the fleet has left their home system. They will arrive in 18 days. The end are not far behind. Good, what about our ground defenses? Fully activated, sir. Every hidden base on Earth is online. The orbital defense grid is powered and ready. The lunar cannons are charged. Nodded. For 60 years humanity had worked in secret, building, preparing, waiting. And now, finally, the waiting was over. Send a message to all Earth forces, he said. Tell them the enemy is coming. Tell them we are ready. And tell them this, we fight not just for ourselves, but for every species that has ever suffered under the. Today, we begin the end of their empire. Across the solar system, hidden in the darkness of space, weapons pointed toward the stars. Soldiers checked their equipment. Pilots sat in their ships, waiting for the order to launch. The galaxy was watching. Hundreds of species had heard about Earth's warning to the. Most of them expected humanity to be destroyed in days. They were simply too powerful. No one could stand against them. But some species, the ones who had gotten to know humans over the past 60 years, were not so sure. They had seen something in humans that others had missed. A spark, a fire that refused to go out. The ambassador had said it best. Humans are strange creatures. They smile in the face of death. They find hope in the darkest places. And when you push them, they push back harder than you can imagine. They would soon learn this lesson. Commander stood at her post on Luna Station, watching the stars. In her hand, she held a photograph of her grandmother, the woman who had taught her to never give up. "We are ready, grandmother," she whispered. "They are coming and we are ready." Outside the station, hidden in the darkness, weapons waited silently. The trap was set. Now they just needed to walk into it. 39 days had become 38. The countdown continued. And somewhere in the vast emptiness of space, the fleet moved closer, completely unaware that they were flying toward their doom. The fleet entered the human solar system on a cold Tuesday morning. 8,000 ships crossed the invisible line that marked the edge of human space. On every ship, soldiers prepared for battle. Weapons were loaded. Engines hummed with power. Victory seemed certain. General stood on the bridge of his command ship, watching the stars ahead. In the distance, he could see a small blue dot. Earth, the home of the creatures who had dared to warn the mighty empire. "Status report," demanded. "All ships have entered the system, General. We detect no enemy activity. The humans appear to be silent." Smiled, it was always the same. The fear came first, then the silence. Soon the begging would begin. "Send out the scout ships. I want a full survey of this system before we continue." "Yes, General." 20 small scout ships broke away from the main fleet. They spread out in different directions, scanning planets and moons. For several hours, everything was quiet. The scouts reported nothing unusual, just rocks and ice and empty space. Then the first scout ship disappeared. "General," an officer said, his voice uncertain. "Scout 7 is not responding. We have lost their signal." Frowned, "Equipment failure. Send another ship to investigate." "Yes, General." Another scout ship changed course, heading toward where Scout 7 had last been seen. It flew for 30 minutes. Then its signal also vanished. "General, we have lost Scout 12 as well." Now was worried. 2 ships did not simply disappear. Something was wrong. "Order all scouts to return to the fleet immediately." "Yes, General, sending orders now." But only 15 scouts returned. 5 had vanished without a trace. No distress signals, no explosions, no wreckage. They were simply gone. "What is happening?" growled. "Where are my ships?" No one could answer him. On Luna Station, Commander watched the reports come in. She allowed herself a small smile. "The silent hunters did their job," said. He was standing beside her, reading the same reports. 5 scouts eliminated. No alerts sent to the main fleet. "Good, but that was just the beginning. The real test comes now." Pressed a button on her console. Around the solar system, human communications went dark. Every transmission stopped. Every signal disappeared. To the outside galaxy, it looked like Earth had suddenly gone silent. All stations confirm blackout, reported. We are invisible now. Perfect. Let them wonder what happened. Let them guess. Far away in the fleet, confusion was spreading. General stared at his screens in disbelief. One moment, he had been detecting human satellites and signals everywhere. The next moment, there was nothing. Where did they go? He demanded. Planets do not just disappear. We do not know, General. All human activity has stopped. It is as if they never existed. Felt a chill run down his spine. In all his years of conquest, he had never seen anything like this. Species ran, species hid, species fought, but they did not simply vanish. Contact Emperor, ordered. He needs to know about this. Yes, General. On the Emperor received the news with a mixture of anger and curiosity. He sat on his throne, surrounded by advisors who looked just as confused as he felt. They went silent, repeated, all of them at the same time. Yes, my lord, the messenger said nervously. General believes it may be some kind of trap. A trap, laughed bitterly. What kind of trap requires you to go blind and deaf? No, this is not a trap. This is fear. The humans have realized they cannot win, so they are hiding. Hoping we will lose interest and go away. What are your orders, my lord? Tell to continue the invasion. Find these humans and destroy them. I want Earth burning within 10 days. Yes, my lord. The messenger hurried away, settled back in his throne, but something was bothering him, a small voice in his mind that would not be quiet. The humans had sent that warning. They had sounded so confident, so sure of themselves. Why would a species that was planning to hide send a warning first? Push the thought away. It did not matter. They were the most powerful empire in the galaxy. A few clever tricks would not change that. Back in the human solar system, the fleet moved deeper into the darkness, had ordered his ships to spread out and search for any sign of human activity. Hundreds of vessels flew in different directions, scanning every asteroid and moon. And one by one, they began to disappear. It started slowly, a ship here, a ship there, no explosions, no battles, just silence where there should have been signals. After the first day, had lost over 50 ships. After the second day, the number was over 200. This is impossible, said. He was packing back and forth on his bridge, his hands clenched into fists. We do not lose ships to invisible enemies. General, an officer said quietly, perhaps we should regroup, wait for reinforcements. Reinforcements. We have 8,000 ships. We should not need reinforcements to conquer one small planet. But deep down was afraid. For the first time in his life, he was facing an enemy he could not see, an enemy that struck without warning and left no trace. It was like fighting ghosts. On Luna Station, received updates every hour. The silent hunters were doing their job perfectly. These were special ships, designed over decades to be completely invisible. They made no heat. They sent no signals. They simply floated in the darkness and waited for ships to come close. Then they struck with weapons that left no evidence. 237 ships destroyed, reported. They are starting to panic. Not enough panic yet, said. We need them scared, really scared, scared enough to make mistakes. Commander, I have a message from Admiral. Took the tablet and read the message. Her eyes lit up. The Allied fleets will arrive in 3 days, she announced. Over 2,000 ships combined. A cheer went up from the officers on the station, smiled for the first time in days. They will be caught between us and our allies, he said. They will have nowhere to run. That is the plan. Looked out at the stars. 60 years of planning, and it all comes down to this. We just need to keep them confused for 3 more days. In the darkness of space, the fleet had stopped moving, had ordered all ships to hold position. He could not keep losing vessels to an invisible enemy. He needed to think. He needed a plan. But there was no plan for this. They had always been the hunters. They had never been the prey, did not know how to fight an enemy he could not see or find. "General," an officer said, "Emperor is demanding a status report." Closed his eyes. How could he explain this? How could he tell the Emperor that hundreds of ships had simply vanished, that the mighty fleet was being picked apart by shadows? "Tell the Emperor. Tell him we are facing unexpected resistance. We will provide a full report soon." "Yes, General." Turned to look at the stars. Somewhere out there in the cold darkness, humans were watching, waiting, planning. For the first time in his long career, General began to wonder if the humans had been telling the truth. Maybe ignoring their warning really would be the Empire's doom. But it was too late now. They were trapped in a web they could not see, fighting an enemy they could not find, and the humans were just getting started. 3 days. That was all the time left before the Allied fleets arrived. 3 days of silence and shadows and fear. They had no idea what was coming. General had not slept in 3 days. His eyes were red and tired. His hands shook slightly as he held the latest report. Over 500 ships lost. 500. And they had not even seen the enemy once. "This cannot be happening," he whispered to himself. "This is not possible." Around him, the bridge crew worked in nervous silence. No one wanted to speak. No one wanted to be the one to deliver more bad news. The mood on every ship had changed from confidence to fear. Soldiers who had laughed at the human warning now looked over their shoulders constantly, waiting for death to come from the shadows. "General," an officer said carefully, "we have received a transmission from outside the system." "From the—" "No, sir, from somewhere else. It appears to be multiple fleets approaching our position." Felt his blood run cold. "Show me." The main screen lit up with sensor data. 3 separate fleets were entering the human solar system from different directions. Recognized the ship designs immediately. Species that they had bullied and threatened for centuries. Species that had always backed down when the Empire flexed its muscles. "How many ships?" asked, his voice barely a whisper. "Over 2,000 combined, General. They will reach our position in approximately 4 hours." 2,000 ships, added to whatever invisible force the humans had, suddenly understood the truth. This was not a desperate defense. This was a trap, a carefully planned trap that the humans had been building for decades. "We need to retreat," said. "Order all ships to pull back immediately." "General, retreat. Do it now, before it is too late." But it was already too late. As the fleet began to turn around, the darkness around them came alive. Hundreds of human ships appeared out of nowhere, dropping their invisibility shields all at once. They had been surrounding them for days, waiting for this moment. And then the weapons started firing. Admiral watched the battle from Earth's command center. On the main screen, he could see thousands of lights flashing. Each flash was a weapon firing. Each explosion was a ship dying. "Admiral," officer said, "they are trying to retreat, but they are surrounded. The Allied fleets have cut off their escape routes." "Casualties on our side?" "Minimal so far, sir. The enemy was completely unprepared. They had spread their fleet too thin while searching for us." Nodded slowly. This was what they had planned. Let them wander in the dark. Let them lose ships to the silent hunters. Let fear weaken their discipline. And then, when they were confused and scared, strike with overwhelming force. "Open a channel to the command ship," ordered. "Channel open, sir." Stood straight and looked directly at the camera. His voice was calm and steady. "General of the Empire, this is Admiral of Earth. As you can see, your fleet is surrounded. You are and outmaneuvered. I am giving you one chance to surrender. Lower your weapons and power down your engines. Any ship that does not comply will be destroyed." On the command ship, stared at the human on his screen. The same human who had sent the warning weeks ago. The same calm face. The same steady voice. "Surrender," snarled. The do not surrender. Then you will die, replied simply. Your choice, General. The transmission ended, looked around at his bridge crew. They were all staring at him, waiting for orders. He could see the fear in their eyes. They knew the truth. The battle was already lost. But he had conquered dozens of worlds. He had never surrendered. He would not start now. All ships, he ordered. Attack, destroy as many of them as you can, for the Empire. The remaining ships charged forward. They fired every weapon they had. For a few minutes, space was filled with explosions and chaos. But it was not enough, not nearly enough. The human ships were faster and more advanced than anything that had faced. The Allied fleets attacked with perfect coordination, as if they had trained together for years. Ship after ship exploded in the darkness. The fleet, which had once seemed so mighty, was being torn apart. On Luna Station, Commander coordinated the human forces. Her fingers flew across control panels as she directed ships and weapons. Focus fire on their carriers, she ordered. Do not let them launch fighters. Yes, Commander. Enemy carriers are being targeted. Around her, officers worked with calm efficiency. This was what they had trained for. This was their moment. Commander said, "The fleet commander is requesting to speak with you." Open the channel. A face appeared on screen. There were tall beings with silver skin and large, dark eyes. This one was smiling. Commander, they said, "I must admit, when you first proposed this plan 60 years ago, many of us had doubts, but you were right. They can be beaten." "We could not have done it without your help," replied, "all of you." "No, you could not have done it without hope. That is something humans have always had more of than any other species. Today, you have shared that hope with the entire galaxy." The transmission ended, turned back to the battle. The fleet was crumbling. Thousands of ships had already been destroyed. The survivors were trying to flee, but there was nowhere to go. On the command ship, alarms were screaming. Fires burned on multiple decks. The hull had been breached in dozens of places. General stood on his damaged bridge, watching his empire fall apart. "General," an officer gasped. "Hull integrity at 20%. We cannot survive another hit." Said nothing. He just stared at the screen, watching his ships explode one after another. In his mind, he heard the human warning again. The simple words that he had laughed at just weeks ago. Turn back. Why had he not listened? Why had he been so sure that the humans were weak? Because they were small, because they were young, because they had smiled and traded instead of conquering. Now he understood. The humans had never been weak. They had just been patient, waiting, preparing, building an alliance that would stand against when the time came. "General, enemy ship approaching." Looked up. A human ship was flying directly toward them. It was small, barely bigger than a shuttle, but its weapons were powered up and aimed at the command ship. "Sir, what do we do?" Closed his eyes. There was nothing to do. The battle was over. The Empire had lost. "Tell Emperor," said quietly. "Tell him the humans were telling the truth. Ignoring their warning was our doom." A moment later, the human ship fired. The command ship exploded in a ball of fire and light. Admiral watched the explosion on his screen. He felt no joy, no celebration, only a deep tiredness. "The command ship has been destroyed," reported. "General is dead." "And the rest of their fleet?" "Approximately 3,000 ships remain. Most are badly damaged. Many are surrendering." 3,000 ships from 8,000. The mighty fleet had been cut in half in less than 12 hours. Sat down heavily in his chair. Around him, officers were cheering and hugging each other. They had won. Against all odds, they had won. But knew this was not over. The Empire still controlled hundreds of worlds. Emperor still sat on his throne. This battle was a victory, but the war was just beginning. "Send a message to all Allied forces," he said. "Tell them the first battle is won, but stay ready. They will not accept this defeat easily." Yes, Admiral. Looked at the screen one more time. Debris floated where the fleet had once been. Among the wreckage, human and allied ships moved carefully, picking up survivors and securing the area. Humanity had done the impossible. They had stood against the most feared empire in the galaxy and won. Now they just had to finish what they started. The news spread across the galaxy like fire. They had been defeated, not just beaten but crushed, by humans, by the small creatures from the little blue planet that everyone had ignored for so long. On hundreds of worlds, species that had lived in fear of the looked up at the stars with new hope. If the humans could do it, maybe freedom was possible. Maybe the empire was not as unbeatable as everyone had believed. Emperor sat alone in his throne room. The great hall was empty. He had sent away all his servants and guards. He needed to think. He needed to understand how everything had gone so wrong. The reports were still coming in. General was dead. Nearly 5,000 ships destroyed. The survivors were limping back to space, broken and humiliated, and the humans were still out there, waiting. Hal whispered to the empty room, "How did this happen?" He remembered the warning. The human admiral with the calm face and steady voice, "Turn back," just 2 words, had laughed at those words. He had thought the humans were fools. Now he understood who the real fool had been. A door opened behind him. Did not turn around. He already knew who it was. "My lord," his chief advisor said nervously, "the Council of Generals has assembled. They are waiting for your orders." "What orders can I give?" asked bitterly. "Our fleet is destroyed. Our generals are dead or defeated. The entire galaxy is laughing at us." "My lord, we still have forces we still control our territory. We can rebuild. We can." Rebuild finally turned around. His eyes were filled with a mixture of rage and despair. "It took us 200 years to build that fleet, 200 years, and the humans destroyed it in a single day." The advisor stepped back, afraid of the Emperor's anger, but was not truly angry at him. He was angry at himself, at his pride, at his certainty that they could never lose. "Leave me," said quietly. "I need to think." The advisor hurried away, turned back to his throne and sat down heavily. For the first time in 400 years he felt old, truly old. Far away on Earth, the celebrations were finally ending. For 3 days, humans had celebrated their victory. Streets had been filled with people cheering and singing. Fireworks had lit up the night sky in every city. It was the happiest moment in human history. But now it was time to get back to work. Admiral stood in the council chamber, facing the 12 leaders of Earth. They all looked tired but proud. They had led humanity through its greatest crisis and come out victorious. "Admiral," Councilwoman said, "what is our next move?" "We need to press our advantage," replied. "They are weakened, but they are not finished. If we give them time to rebuild, they will come back stronger and angrier than before." "Are you suggesting we invade their territory?" "I am suggesting we end the threat permanently. They have terrorized this galaxy for thousands of years. This is our chance to stop them for good." The leaders exchanged glances. What was proposing was not just a defensive war. It was a complete change in how humanity dealt with the galaxy, from hiding and preparing to actively shaping events. "The allied species support this plan," continued. And they have all agreed to continue the fight. Other species are reaching out every day, wanting to join our alliance. The galaxy is ready for change, Councilwoman. We just need to lead the way." Was silent for a long moment, then she nodded. "Very well, Admiral. You have the Council's full support. End the threat." "Yes, Councilwoman." Saluted and left the chamber. Outside, officer was waiting for him. "Sir, we have received a transmission from the..." Raised an eyebrow. "Emperor wants to talk." "It seems so, sir. He is requesting a meeting in person." Considered this carefully. A trap was possible. But if was truly willing to negotiate, this could end the war before more lives were lost. "Arrange the meeting," he said, "but keep our forces ready. I do not trust them to keep their word." "Yes, sir." 3 weeks later, Admiral's ship arrived at the... It was a dark planet, covered in black mountains and gray oceans. The sky was filled with clouds that never seemed to clear. Could see why they had become what they were. Their world was harsh and unforgiving. The meeting took place in the Imperial Palace, walked through halls decorated with the trophies of 1,000 conquered species. Weapons, flags, pieces of destroyed ships. Each item represented a civilization that the had crushed. Felt sick looking at them. Emperor was waiting in his throne room. The old emperor looked even older now. His gray skin had become almost white. His 4 eyes were dull and tired. "Admiral," said, "the human who brought down my empire." "Emperor, the ruler who ignored our warning." Made a sound that might have been a laugh. "Yes, I ignored it, the biggest mistake of my life." He leaned forward in his throne. "Tell me, Admiral, how did you do it? How did a species as young as yours defeat the..." Looked at the old emperor for a long moment before answering. "Because we had something you did not," he said. "Hope, friends, and the belief that we could make a better galaxy." "Hope," repeated the word as if it was foreign to him. "They do not believe in hope, we believe in strength, power, conquest." "And where has that belief gotten you?" Did not answer. They both knew the truth. The way had led to this moment, an empire crumbling, a people facing extinction. "What do you want, Admiral?" asked finally. "Complete surrender, the destruction of my people." "No," said. "We want peace, real peace. The empire must end its wars of conquest. Release the species you have enslaved. Return the worlds you have taken. Become part of the galactic community instead of its enemy. You ask us to give up everything we are. I ask you to become something better." Was silent for a long time. Outside, through the palace windows, he could see his capital city. Millions of lived there. They were not evil. They were just products of a culture that had always valued strength above everything else. Could they change? Could they learn to be different? "If I refuse," asked, "then the war continues, and we will not stop until the threat is ended, one way or another." There was no anger in his voice, no threats, just simple facts, the same tone he had used in that first warning. Finally understood what made humans so dangerous. It was not their weapons or their allies, it was their absolute certainty. When humans said something, they meant it, every word. "Very well," said slowly. "I will accept your terms. The empire will become the republic. We will release our conquered peoples. We will join your alliance." Nodded. "That is all we ever wanted, Emperor. A chance for everyone to live in peace." He turned and walked toward the door. At the threshold, he stopped and looked back. "One more thing, remember this moment. Remember what happened when you ignored a simple warning. The galaxy is changing. Species that were once weak are standing up for themselves. The age of empires is ending. You can either be part of the new galaxy or you can be left behind. The choice is yours." Walked out of the throne room. Sat alone on his throne, thinking about the human's words. 6 months later, the last battle fleet was decommissioned. The enslaved species were freed. The conquered worlds were returned. It was not a smooth process. Many resisted the changes. There were rebellions and protests and violence. But in the end, peace came. Admiral returned to Earth as a hero. He gave speeches about hope and unity and the power of standing together. He became a symbol for a new era in galactic history. But when reporters asked him what moment he was most proud of, he always gave the same answer. "The warning," he would say. "When we sent that message to we told them the truth. We gave them a chance to walk away. They chose not to listen, but we still gave them the choice. That is what made us different. That is what made us human." Years later, the message was displayed in museums across the galaxy. A simple transmission that had changed everything. Turn back. Two words that had ended an empire and started a new age. And in the quiet of space, where ships had once brought death and destruction, there was finally peace. Ships from 100 species traveled freely, trading and exploring and building a better future together. All because Earth had sent a single warning. And meant every word.